I'll just slide the dust cover up so you can get a better look at the bottom spring. Okay, so there's the black spring. Be very careful. There is a right way and a wrong way up. Have a look at the diagram. Here is the adjuster on the G42. It's black spring, then adjuster, and then you've got your orange spring on top. Of course, you've got your stock top hat, and also the bottom rubber mount from the factory is also retained. Now I'm going to move the dust cover up out of the way, and I'm just going to give it a couple of extra mil. I'm going to go up about 5 mil on the rear with the adjusting screw. So at the moment I have about 20 mil of adjustment in the adjusting spring. I'm going to go up another 5 mil to ensure I've got the front to back rake set correctly. Okay, so here is the fully installed rear suspension MSS spring. You've got your top orange spring there, and you have just under the dust cover here, you have the bottom black spring. I'll try and slide it up, give you a bit of a... And there's a few special tools I recommend for doing this job. First of all, get a T-handle hex key torque set like this green one. I believe it's a size 18 that you need, but definitely worth getting one of those. What else have we got here? Also recommend a set of these right-angled E-torques or torque screws as well. And then something I had to do now. Let me just, always difficult doing one hand. Okay, so with the BMW, a couple of specialty tools you'll need. Okay, let's start with some of the specialty tools that you're recommended really to use when you're doing this job. Of course, some spring compressors. I actually ended up using this small set. These aren't the best spring compressors in the world, but the springs aren't actually under a lot of compression, nor do you need to apply a lot of compression to them for the MSS springs to install. So you don't really need a heavy duty set. You just need to be careful with what you're doing and know what you're doing when you're using a simple set like this. They work just fine. You will notice this set here is inverted. Funnily enough, the MSS front coil spring is actually too small for to actually have the setting on the normal, have it set up normally. So I actually inverted it, and I'll throw a picture in to show how I had to use them to put a bit of compression on the MSS spring. But again, you're really only putting a little bit of compression on. I've seen people actually install them without compressing the spring, so you know, it's recommended but not necessarily required. The other specialty tool is, you'll hear everybody talk about a spindle spreader set, something similar to this. This is a specialty spindle spreader set for a suspension, and basically what this is a little flat spindle set that you can fit into the back of the knuckle. Turn it 90 degrees, it'll help split the knuckle so that you can pull the suspension arm away. They weren't aggressive enough for my particular setup for whatever reason, so I actually had to make my own, which I will show you in a moment. The other specialty tool you will need, actually when it comes to splitting the knuckle, also a specialty split bar like that can be useful. I didn't actually use this one, but I would need to use something like that because I made my own custom tool, which I'll show in a minute. But the other thing you need for this job is a pass-through socket. Now this is the set I have. This is a proper suspension pass-through socket set, which then allows you to fit a specialty socket over the top. You can then pass the counter locking tool down through the middle, which allows you to move like so, which allows you to remove the top of your suspension arm, front suspension arm. So there are other variations of this tool. Most of the online tutorials. Sorry for the noise. Most of the online tutorials do use a different system to that, but again, I'll throw a photo up of that system in action. This is arguably the better tool. All right. What else is recommended for the installation? Let's have a look. What else do we have? Yeah, of course, a good torque wrench that will give you at least 200 Newton meters or 150 pounds as required for the rear control arm nuts. Really good quality. Also recommend a really good quality eTorx set that goes up to, I think it's either a 20 or a 22 off the top of my head. I think it's a 20 that's required. Good quality breaker bar, of course. That's about it in terms of sockets. What else do we recommend? Did I use? Yep. Okay, so I recommend a T-handle hex set as well. I haven't seen these used in any of the online tutorials. I think an 18 off the top of my head was the one I actually used, but the T-handle was really useful. That saved you a lot of time. The other thing, what most people just use is a T-hex standard key set like this, but the T-head will save you a lot of time in removing the front Now, because the spindle spreader wasn't aggressive enough for me to really get enough separation on a knuckle to remove the knuckle itself, I ended up getting a size 18 Allen's key and actually just fashion the top with an angle grinder, with a grinder, as you can see, down into the shape of a spindle sprocket, which effectively allowed me to go into the back of the knuckle, give it a 90-degree twist, and gave me a much greater element of separation than the spindle did. Even with this tool, it was still pretty tight to remove. So, funnily enough, I ended up using both in conjunction, lots of WD-40, etc., a lot of penetrating lube. Still a relatively difficult job. So something you may need to consider is sacrificing a $2 hex key to give you the ability to actually really separate that knuckle. Front sway bar. The final tool that I recommend, is a swiveling, rotating socket set like this one here, or even two of these really is ideal. Save you a lot of time. Again, obviously you can do it with a standard spanner, but the rotating spanners will save you a lot of time, particularly on this job. Again, when removing the control links and also the wheel speed sensors, they're really handy for those jobs. So also recommended those. Some people talk about utilizing crow feet style spanners. I didn't need that for whatever reason. When I did it, I didn't find them really useful, but a set like this in the crow's feet is recommended. I've got some great eTorx adjustable sockets. Didn't need those either. Just with the amount of torque that you're applying, something like that, it's not that useful. What else? And a quality set of deep sockets just in a standard range. You will need a 18 millimeter in particular, good quality deep socket like this one is also required really. That's about it in terms of the tooling required for this job. The other thing that's going to make this job much easier is some battery-powered torque wrenches, just for zipping on, zipping off various nuts and T-hex keys, etc. It will save you just a lot of time. Being a suspension component, there's a lot of torque involved, which means there's a lot of fine threads, which means you're going to be doing a lot of spinning of spanners and sockets. So this in particular really made the job much faster. On goes the spring. I'm going to roll the dust cap back up over the spring. Like so. Again, it's a bit fiddly. They do say the dust cap is optional, but you know, if you're doing a job, do it properly. Failure is not an option. Okay, so it's all pretty well aligned now. Next up is the factory boot cap. You want to align the end of the alignment cap on the dust cap with the end of your spring, like so. So you can see it's all fitted up nicely. Okay. Got my socket ready to go. Got my nut ready to go. Got my new bump stop. MSS supply a new bump stop for the front only. Don't need it for the rear. Okay. All ready to reassemble. Slide everything together. Just a camera for you. Yep, we're looking aligned. Just going to pick up the thread. So we've picked it up. Okay. One last check of everything. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten up the top nut. Try and get a better shot for the video. What's going on? Okay, we'll torque that down to spec in a moment. Before we do, I'm just going to triple check everything. We're still aligned here. We're all nice and flush at the bottom of the strut. Everything is sitting nicely. The last thing I'm going to do is do a final check of the ride height. I'm only dropping around 10 mil. That's at about 11 mil, so I'll make sure that the other front matches. I'm only doing about 10 mil to begin with because MSSA, once the spring is settled, it's going to settle about 5 mil. So that's going to give me about a 15 mil drop, which is about all I want for my M240i. I don't want to go too aggressive with it. Okay, next job is to go ahead and just torque up the top nut.